maybe 1 Samuel. And I think, well, I said, I just did a big study on David, and so I guess that was farther back than I thought it was, but maybe you remember when I did. We suggest, but I finally landed on Micah, and so I think before we actually get into the book, if you want to turn there, Micah chapter 1, I want to show you what my thinking was. Micah 1 and verse 1, I just want to start by reading that. It says, the word of the Lord that came to Micah of Morsheth in the day of Jotham, Ahaz, and Hezekiah, kings of Judah, which he saw concerning Samaria and Jerusalem. So the first thing that intrigued me was the fact that it gives us the time frame in which he prophesied. And it's based on 3 kings, Jotham, Ahaz, and Hezekiah. So his prophecy lasted during their reigns, I guess. And I thought, well, what do we know about those guys? Really. And then I started doing more study, and so I came up with this second page on your notes as far as the chronology of the prophets. And one of the things that was interesting as I was putting this together was, we know the prophets and we've read through them, but their time frame is interesting. The bulk of the prophets all prophesied before Samaria and Jerusalem were taken. And so as you can see there where it says pre-exile, that goes all the way down to after the fall of Jerusalem. And then a lot of this, and it's like they're all within 50 years of being probably in the right time period. We do know the exact date of the fall of Samaria and the exact date of the fall of Jerusalem, which also means we could pretty much surmise when Daniel prophesied. And so, but I thought it was interesting. It kind of gives us a perspective as Samaria falls and Israel is taken. So that kind of adds to his validity, I guess, as he continues to prophesy on to Judah afterwards. One of the other interesting things of observation, after the fall of Samaria and the 10 nations, 10 tribes of Israel there, it's 100 years before Jerusalem falls. That's a long period of time that God allowed them to continue. And it was mainly because there were some kings that followed him and that were obedient. And so because of that, he honored that. But still, for another 100 years that he warned them of their trespass. Those were all before the fall of Jerusalem. And then after the Jerusalem fell, then we have just 2 prophets during the time of the exile. And that only lasted for 70 years. And that was Daniel and Ezekiel that were in that time period. And then after they returned, of course, that was a time of Nehemiah and Zerubbabel, those guys that went back to build the temple again.